Welcome to the Business with Beers podcast. This is the place where we help entrepreneurs expand their business, build their wealth, and generate passive income. I'm your host, Brian Beers, an entrepreneur who's on a mission to inspire growth from everyone around me. Remember that you need to take the actions others won't, and you can live the life that others don't. Please be sure to check out my weekly newsletter that now drops every Thursday. It includes one quote, one tweet, one podcast recommendation, plus some business and investing insight from me. It's short and it's sweet. My goal is to provide you with just a couple gold nuggets to help inspire your growth. Go to brianbeers.com to subscribe. Hello, everyone. I'm excited today to bring you Joe McCabe. Joe is an entrepreneur, a real estate investor, and the author of a new book called Maintain Your Gear, Surefire Strategies to Dominate, Execute, and Scale in Business and Life. He's also a good friend of mine here in Philly. Welcome back to the show, actually, for the second time, Joe.
What's up, Brian? Really appreciate it.
Yes, actually, you were my 8th guest in May of 2021, the episode.
Yeah.
We recorded obviously earlier than that. But so since we chat, it's been a little bit. So can you kind of catch me up in what you've been up to maybe the last couple years, 2 years or so?
Yeah. So we've been, our when I was first on the show, our core businesses back then were just kind of real estate, mortgage, and title.
Yep.
And we were in the process of growing, and we still are, just growing as many national joint ventures with real estate brokers nationwide in the mortgage and title space. And we've been successful at that. We're looking to add many more. But in April of 2020, and I can't remember if I mentioned this on the last podcast, but we had got into the home care business. And that 18 months later is doing 20 million in revenue. And we just raised a $30 million fund. We're going to acquire our franchise first, most likely, and then just kind of exit from that within like a 5-year period.
Acquire the franchisor?
Yeah, that'll be one of our buys. So we own a few franchises and then a few independents. But the franchises have there's a strategy behind it. The franchises actually have a right to buy back the franchisor has the right to buy back the franchisees. Yep. So that's an advantage that we want. It's not in our contract because we were smart enough to ask for it to be removed. But yeah, so that's the goal there. And then recently we just got into the cleaning business. That was, we had a company approach us and say, hey, we're doing a couple million, but we don't have any systems. We don't have literally working straight off of Google Calendar. And I was like, give me 3 weeks and we'll build just some systems. And that's what we did. So, we got 50% of a cleaning company. And then of course there's a book you mentioned. So we just, I had written the book strictly so that our business development and recruiters could use it as a giveaway for realtors when they meet with them and say, hey, it's a book from our CEO, all about him and how he got where he was. And Simon & Schuster ended up picking it up and actually publishing it. So it was supposed to just be a self-published Amazon book.
Okay.
But I met someone at Simon & Schuster and it took off. And last week I was an Amazon bestseller. So
okay, there you go.
Yeah.
How'd that work? The Simon & Schuster. I was curious about. That was one of my questions too. I mean, it's a pretty big publisher. So how did that come about?
Yeah. So I was actually, I was on Ariel Island, which is this girl from Nashville, Brittany Turner.
Okay, yeah.
Really incredible
Is that
story.
the GoBundance trip?
So they may have a GoBundance trip there now, so we went there when the island first opened. I actually went with Chris Ryan, and I hit it off with Brittany Turner, and it turned out that her husband was in the same unit as my chief of staff. Brittany and I hit it off because we've both been kind of bootstrapped real estate entrepreneurs. Yeah. That's how we got started. And, I don't have a private island like she does, but she pulled that thing together and I was just super impressed. And so they asked me to be on the board of Ariel Recovery Group, which is an sex trafficking operation. And they also do natural disaster recovery. And they do some veterans training programs. So veterans get to go to the island and kind of be immersed in, kind of getting them back on their feet, giving them skills, showing them how to operate in the civilian world a little better. And so that's a lot of fun. And when I was on the island, I got to meet a publisher from Simon & Schuster. And I jokingly told him, I was like, oh, you should publish my book, And he's like, well, send it to me. I'll check it out. And he called me back, and now he's like, he didn't call me back. He walked up to me at breakfast the next day and was like, hey, we actually do want to publish this. I read this last night.
Okay. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
Did they may have to make a lot of edits to it, like going through a big publishing house?
So yeah, when I had initially done it, we were ready to, when I met him, I was ready to self-publish on Amazon. I thought I was.
Yeah.
9 months later, they finally published it on January 3rd. So it was a while ago. There were multiple rounds of editing. They outsource some, they in-house some. It's got to be signed off by their chief publisher. So it's a lot of work, but super high quality. They handle getting it in Barnes & Noble, Target, Amazon, all the major bookstores. They helped me with the Audible recording. So I really didn't have to do anything except show up where they told me, and write the book.
Yep. That's cool. Yeah. So, I mean, you got all these different things, right? You got your real estate holdings, you had these joint ventures, the home health care, now a cleaning business, obviously your book. What gives you the most energy? Like, where do you spend your time, and how do you choose to spend it where you do?
So I get the most energy and the things that excite me the most from making new deals. I am good at operations because I hate operations. I hate the thought of overly complex bureaucratic systems. It drives me crazy because I feel like so many simple things and so many companies are just made to be so complex.
Yep.
And they're very simple. Like, you can overcomplicate anything. You can overcomplicate writing a book. I did it in a couple of weeks. But I've always been that way. Like, how can I find the most simple way forward? And so making new deals has always been that excitement for me. Like, I don't care what type of company it is. The business operations are business operations. Like, yeah, there's the minutia of how do you drive that business in? How do you get that revenue? And that's fine. You hire experts to run that. But when it comes to business operations and culture and all that stuff, it's simple. It's the same across the board, in my opinion. And I just love going out there. Like, on the healthcare side, I'll handle fundraising and acquisition. So I structure the deal and turn it over to the team. And one of my partners is currently the chief growth officer of Ameribest. He was the CEO of the Jewish Federation. So, like, the guy is a pro. Can't take any credit away from him. But when it comes to structuring deals, that's my thing.
Yep.
I just love that part of it. I'll even jump in on, like, agent recruiting if there's a need there. I'll sell the joint ventures initially for title or mortgage. But then we always have that team of experts that I fall back
actually
on.
Executes on it.
I've never originated alone, so.
Yeah, you go. But you do hundreds of millions probably in originations. Yeah. I've never fixed a car, so that's the same thing, right?
Well, what's funny too is people probably don't know, but you have an office across from one of my offices. So. Oh yeah. Or an oil change place.
Oh yeah.
Right next to the right.
Frankfurt Ave.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's one of our newer ones. So how do you find the partners? So for me, this is the biggest challenge. I'm similar to you. Like, I like the deals, I like that, but then a lot of it is like, we've always been the ones to also do operations. So then we're kind of like, get diluted if we get into too much. And so what I've always kind of admire about you is this ability to find these people and do these partnerships with it so that you can continue to kind of scale and grow and focus on the things that give you energy. So talk to me through, like, how do you find the person, and let's talk about how do you structure like the actual like partnership deal for home healthcare or whatever, either one of these cleaning company, don't pick one. I don't care.
So I guess the best one to talk about would be the title one. So when we go into that relationship, we're looking for a partner that already has, we're not looking for a startup. So we're looking for a real estate brokerage is used to the in-house relationships with title and mortgage. We just do them a little better, give them equity, give them something they can sell. They're building their company's value, their personal net worth, whatever's important to them. Sometimes it's just cash flow, unfortunately, and they're not thinking about the long term, but we go to them and we maintain control of that relationship. We are the managing partner. Of course, we want their advice. We're inside of their office. We're working with their agents. And if they stop using us, there's no money for anybody. But when it comes to control, we have the ultimate and final say. For anything like that, mainly for licensing purposes. And we're holding, sometimes 10, 15, $20 million per joint venture in escrow, as deals are funding. So it's super important that we have control. And when I had, I look at Derek, my chief of staff, who, we both got someone from SODIF.
Yep.
That was super important to me. That was something I'd thought about for a while. I was like, the next person that comes into the Surefire group, the parent company of all this, needs to be, I just wanted another military guy, like a guy that understood me, understood him. We could have a beer together. No one got offended by anything. And it's just like, it's just more fun. And we've seen a lot worse shit than what happens on our day to day. So nothing phases us. Yeah. Especially Derek. Derek was like, in Syria for multiple deployments. But so that's how we choose the partner. Like it's gotta be someone you like, but it's gotta be a relationship that you control.
Yeah. So what's it look like for the home healthcare? Like who's your partner on that?
Yeah. So that's Mike Farina. And we have two other partners that don't manage the business as actively as we do.
But Mike's kind of the leader. Like he's kind of the guy who's in it every single day. Like
we look at Mike as our CEO. Yep. Okay. Mike is essentially the CEO. He is the industry expert. He is, one of those guys that when you Google home care, his name will come up.
And how'd you find him?
Just pure chance. So one of my buddies, one of my partners in that entity, he was going to put up the money and we were going to buy our first location in Lake Jackson, in Texas. And he said, I think I know a guy in home care. And it turns out the guy he knew was the CEO of the Jewish Federation Philly, but specifically their non-medical home care division. And so we called him and we were like, hey, Mike, we just bought a company. We don't actually know what we do, but it makes a lot of money. We don't know if we bill Medicare or Medicaid. He's like, yep. He's like, you're in the non-medical home care division or space. And we asked him to be a partner. And a few months later, he brought in a friend of his that runs Bayada in Florida. So now we have kind of two industry experts, Kevin and Mike, and then me and Tony. Tony handles like he used to run facilities for Comcast. So he runs like all of our facilities related things. Cause we have 9 or 10 locations now doing that 20 million.
Okay. So these are some physical, are physical locations too? Like offices
all physical locations.
Like,
yeah. Yep.
Like, but it's all in-home care, right?
It's all in-home care, but you're required to have an office in most states. And so we have, like most of our employees are caregivers. Yeah, they're small offices. Like for Pittsburgh, we have call it like 150 caregivers in Pittsburgh. Yeah. But we have an office staff of 3 people that support all that.
Yep. Yeah, I've been researching a lot about, especially on the franchise side. There's tons of them, right? There's tons of different franchises that vary in kind of what they do, but then they're all kind of similar in a lot of ways. So which one are you part of for your franchise?
Care Builders at Home.
And what was like? Why was it them? Was it what was available, or was there more thought, like competitive?
Yeah, there was no strategy. They were just listed in Lake Jackson, and
it was for sale. Had cash flow, and so he said, "All right, this sounds good."
It had cash flow. I was just going to do it myself regardless, and it just ended up being a good deal. We had really hit it off with the franchisor. There are a couple of like older guys in New York City. They're on their way towards retirement, and they've had a few successful franchises that they've sold and exited from, and a lot of their franchisees are older. So they said, look, we've got a lot of businesses that we can pump your way. And I said, well, that's fine, but we're only doing this to exit. So, I'm going to bring in some really good people. We need to remove like our non-competes. We need to remove the restrictive covenants that you guys have in there that were pretty restrictive. Like you're obviously not going to have the ability to buy us back 100% seller finance. That's not going to happen. So we took all that stuff out. They started actually helping us acquire their own franchisees. And next thing we knew, we were like 60% of their total revenue before we had grown organically. Yeah.
Okay. And what are you doing out of them in Care Builders in revenue?
In revenue, we're about 20 million under them.
Okay. Can you speak at all to any of the margins, gross or net, whatever you want to share or not? It's fine.
Yeah, we speak. So our gross margins, they handle all of our billing. So we always talk in gross margins. So the gross margin after we pay the caregiver is for like 49% to the company.
Okay. So after you pay the caregivers, you got 10 million roughly, right? And then caregivers, they handle the billing, right? Which is, I think, unique in their case when I was doing my research on it. Is that right?
Yeah, very unique. Most franchises just give you the logo.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, hey, we have the logo and access care. Well, anyone can do that. I mean, you don't need a franchise for that. They handle the billing, which is good and bad because, you're relying on an outside person to do all your billing, and you're lagging 60 to 90 days. So initially that's a little sketchy because you join a franchise, you got to put all the money to run this for 90 days before you get paid. But so far, so good. No problems.
And how many markets do you have now? Did you say 9?
Yeah. So we're kind of doing almost like a roll-up strategy.
Yeah.
So we're in Pittsburgh. We just got into Philadelphia. We're in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. We're in Lake Jackson, Texas, Houston, and Austin, I think.
Okay. So these are other franchisees. They want to get out. They go to the franchisor, say they want to sell, and they say, hey, go talk to Joe. You talk to them. I'm assuming structure a seller finance deal to buy it. So can you talk me through what it looks like?
Actually, the fund that we started, we're actually partnering with Christian Mack. And so the Terra Rosa family office is backing us. So they'll be part of the GP with us and helping us from like a fund administration perspective, because we've never done it before. So we'll have some help there. But he was, one of the things that him and I were in Dubai together in December of January of 22. And I was telling him about how we're acquiring these things at like 1.5 times EBITDA. Some of them we got for free, like literally take it. I don't even want it. And I'm like, okay. So, and a lot of these people were they're mom and pops that they've never put a value to their business. So like, we're not taking advantage of anybody or anything like that. They never thought it was worth anything. A lot of them are just like, they're interviewing us thinking that they're giving us their business and we're trying to pay them. And they're like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And that's happened a couple of times because, a lot of these people are like retired medical professionals that get into this for some extra cash and that's it. That's all they wanted. So our biggest thing has been, we've acquired these they could easily trade for 3 to 4 times EBITDA by themselves individually. Yeah. But instead we're buying them for 1.5. So we've got instant value. Now that we're at 20 million, the total company could be valued between 6 to 8 times EBITDA. Once you cross the 25 million threshold with as many markets as we have, is where you start really seeing crazy valuations. Like if you find someone that is strategically looking for what you have, we've seen as high as 12 times EBITDA above 25 million with a couple metros. So
even though it's a franchise?
Yeah. So the franchise, there are specific private equity buyers that only want franchises because they don't actually want to do any of the work. They want to own it because they want to bundle all these up and then sell them. So they'll do the similar thing that we are, where they're like, hey, we'll keep it under the franchise, but we need the ability to sell in 5 years without you guys getting in our way.
The franchisor has to be okay with all that, right?
Yeah. Yep. And that's why we just want to buy them, because then if we bought them, we wouldn't care anyway.
So your goal is to buy, because you said they're old guys out of New York. They kind of want to get out potentially.
Yeah.
You become the franchisor. You already own 20% of the system, I think you said, or account for 20% of the revenue, whatever that number is.
60. Yeah.
60. Oh, 20 million, 60%. Okay. So you're like, you kind of have the lion's share already. And then you then open up new branches too. I mean, because you got to have growth. That's not just more than acquisition, right? To make it worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. So the main purpose of it, we can buy them, they're getting 8% of our revenue, as that's the fee they charge.
Yep.
So, you do the math on that. They're really not walking away with that much money. And they're a smaller player. So, that would only add like 3 million or so to our top line from what now the franchisees will be paying us. So it's not huge, but the advantage is now we can go to those franchisees and buy them back if we wanted to, or we could just, continue to operate those franchisees, use that cash flow to then do more acquisitions. And now we have a franchise that's part of the fund, and and in 5 years, with the way that these things are cash flowing, and obviously the way that the population is aging and things like that, I mean, there's an opportunity to stay in and maybe not sell. Like we may in 5 years just refi with a large bank, pay out all the investors who want to get out, and just keep rolling with the cash flow.
Yeah. So can you share what you're netting on that? On the 20 million?
On the 20 million, ballpark 12%.
Okay. So you got 50 gross
number,
right? So 50% off the top is going to the caregivers. And then you got 10% probably in like royalty and advertising, something like that.
Yeah. 8, we're at 8 now, but everyone else is at 10. Yeah.
Okay. So that gets you down to, well, let's say 40. And then what's the other gap? Is it kind of the overhead of all the managers you need to manage all the caregivers? Because there's no the lease is nothing, right? Like insurance probably isn't that much. Like, is that the rest of the cost is management overhead?
Yeah. And we own all the buildings for the most part that we're in. Yeah. So it's, the costs are just the local administration costs. It's the healthcare business is inherently a high value business. Yeah. You have to be. And a lot of our, we love private pay because it's instantly higher margin, right? And you can charge more. But most of the business is Medicare, Medicaid. It's one of those.
Yeah, like 60%,
they pay
right?
back
60-40.
Yeah, and it's not a great reimbursement, So, and people need to make, anywhere from $10 to $15 an hour, but maybe you're only getting reimbursed 17 to 20 an hour, or maybe a little more. And you want as many 24-hour cases as you can, but you can't pay those people overtime because you don't even get reimbursed enough to pay them overtime. So that is the hardest part of the business. It's staffing, it's managing overtime, and it's working on low margins. But that's what discourages a lot of these smaller mom and pops is, they really do get stuck in a place where they're now relying on this income to live, where we're not. So we're investing every dollar into growing the business, staffing this up with great people. Like we just hired we're in the process of hiring another director who's really strategic from another company. And that's where all our money goes. So for us, the margin doesn't matter as much because we're focused on the 5-year exit.
Yeah, build the volume. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Staffing seems to be, when I was thinking about it, just the biggest challenge of the amount of turnover you would have. And then, I don't know, just all the moving pieces there. I mean, you probably have hundreds of employees, I would imagine. 700?
Yeah, it's over. We're probably about 400 or so.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot. And then the healthcare industry again it's very much as it's very much, there is a high turnover. There's a high turnover because it's kind of sleazy, right? Like Philadelphia is going to be a tough market because, you live here, you see it, Patriot, all these other companies, they'll call you and offer you like a quarter more and people will switch for that.
Yeah.
Which is actually a shame if you think about it, but people will leave a company for a quarter.
Yeah. So how do you battle that, or what's your plan to battle that?
Well, we try to just be, a lot of those companies have zero relationship with their caregivers. So we just do our best to, while being focused on building the value of the company, we try to build the culture in-house and do different incentive type programs for the employees, get them overtime where we can. Things like that other companies aren't doing. We try to get them better benefits than they're getting elsewhere. That type of thing.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah, it is, because at that certain point, like your sales are derived by whatever the government is willing to pay. So it's like hard to keep giving people raises if the government's not, raising what you guys are getting, exactly. Right? So then your margin shrinks on your most loyal people, and it's kind of then, I don't know, disincentivized loyalty at a certain point. I don't know, unless obviously the income continues to rise faster than the raises. Yeah. But cool. So talk to me a little bit about the book. Like, give me the overview. I mean, I've got the kind of the contents here, but give me the high level over here of who's the book for, and like what's kind of your main goal in it.
Yeah. So we actually went to a business summit that Grant Cardone put on in September of 21.
Okay.
And one of the sessions was about marketing. And I probably said this on your last show. I hate social media. I despise the things that are put on there. I think that it's a lot of bullshit. Well, podcast though, obviously I'll do that.
Sure. Yeah.
And so one of my recruiters is like, Joe, you're screwing us. Like, we need to have some type of social media presence. And so I just wouldn't agree. I was like, there's no way I'm doing it. I was like, I'll write a book and you can use the book. And that's how, that's kind of how the book started. And again, we never expected Simon & Schuster to pick it up and want to publish it. So what I really wanted to do though, was because I didn't have social media and I didn't, you know, we've got to have total in our company, like 700 people across all brands. So it's really hard for me to get in front of everybody. This book was like a way for them to get to know me and a way for me to try to inspire them and for me to say like, hey, this is how quickly I did what I did. And this is exactly how I did it with real stories, you know, real tangible things. It's a bit of a rah-rah entrepreneurial book. But, you know, I think what it tries to portray more than anything else is that you really don't have to know anything about any of the industries that you're going into. You just have to really, you know, put in the work and put yourself in situations and in rooms and spend uncomfortable money to be around better people. And, you know, I try to talk about some of the things I've had, some of the letdowns, some of the false starts, a lot of false starts. And, you know, I think that it really breaks it down as far as everything from how we hire people to how I try to lead the companies to how I structure deals to how, you know, seller financing is an option if you're not bankable or you don't think you're bankable, and how, you know, it's easier to finance big deals than it is small deals, like as surprising as that is. Like I can't get a loan from a bank, but I can partner with a family office and raise 30 million. It like doesn't make any sense. But I try to outline that for people so that they can, you know, understand that anything is really, really possible at any level that they're at, but they have to be willing to scale.
Okay. And what do you think holds people back from wanting to scale?
So I think there's a really big cultural problem with entrepreneurship. I think that there is this solopreneur idea that people just need to work for themselves. And I don't know that they actually know what that means. I think that they just want to work for themselves so that they can say that they work for themselves and that no one tells them what to do. And that is a wrong freaking target. You know, you do work for other people when you work for yourself. You work for the 700 people that work for you. And every single day I bust my ass to keep the companies going. And a lot of these solopreneurs, they just want the freedom, this quote unquote freedom. Well, I can tell you that after achieving 40 million in revenue in 6 years, I'm nowhere near the freedom part of this yet. You know, I still got to show up every single day. And, you know, so I think that a lot of what holds people back is themselves. And I think that they get into entrepreneurship for the wrong reasons and they get bad advice from people on social media, which is why I stay off of it. There's no 4-hour work week. There's no 40-hour work week if you want something big. And that does mean that, yes, you can't have the balance, right? You're not always going to be there for all your kids' sporting events if you want to build $1 billion company. Like, there are sacrifices to be made. And I think people don't realize that. I think they think they're getting into this for freedom, but they don't realize that the freedom is the marathon part of this. That's what you get after building a true company with real employees, real revenue, you know, years from now. And being an R360, you know, I've put myself around people that have actually done that. You know, R360 is like the next level of GoBundance, basically. And that's what Chris Ryan, you know, had jumped away to start. And those people built companies for years. And, you know, I work with a lot of their kids in the Rising Leaders program. And you hear that from their kids, like, oh, my dad wasn't really around, or like, I can't compete with my dad. But that's what it took, you know, like that's what it took to build something great and big. So I think people just really don't know what they want. They think they do. But I think, you know, there's going to be a shift, right? And this market changing is going to wipe out a lot of these solopreneurs. A lot of them are in real estate. I mean, there are so many real estate deals going on right now. I haven't invested in real estate in 2 years. This is just a really good example. And I'll meet these people that just got into real estate and they'll present a deal that I would never put $1 in.
Yeah.
And they think it's the greatest freaking deal in the world. And I'm like, you're wrong. You're just freaking wrong, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and then they put like all their money into it.
Yeah. I mean, like GoBonus just had a couple of guys like,
oh yeah. The triple net stuff.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Yep. So yeah, I think that's good. And it's like it's a balance of what do they want to achieve, right? That's part of the goal setting too. If you want to achieve this massive wealth, like you said, you're not going to do it, working 4 hours at the beach. But but there's something in between too. Like but knowing that there's no, passive income in a lot of ways is elusive in that you got to work for it. Right. And I think some people want too quickly to shortcuts rather than do the work to build a business. Right. And then once you have it built up to a certain level, then that's when, time comes disconnected from your income. Right. Which is kind of the goal. So
even like, and that, I think that's an interesting thing too, because I started calling the Surefire Group a private equity company because we have our 4 operating companies.
Sounds cooler too.
Right. It sounds, and it's way easier than saying, well, what business are you in? Real estate, mortgage, title, and healthcare. It's like, well, we're in private equity. And then people are like, oh, that's cool. Yeah. So we have our 4 operating companies and there is nothing passive about any single one of them. But some people would say that technically title mortgage is passive because of real estate, but we've scaled those into joint ventures. I would tell you that none of that is passive. The other thing is all of my investments that are passive, like investing in people's funds, people think that passive income, they think in a very short time period. We have over 45 investments now in the hundreds of thousands of dollars range in various companies, probably some that you're invested into from GoBundance.
Yep.
Like a lot of these deals that come through, these are 5 and 10 year plays. So, there's nothing, the real passive income, it's still a long time. Like you're relying on someone else to build $1 billion company because you're already running your 4 operating companies. You can't do anything else. So, you invest with other people and count on them. And I think that like, especially in the real estate industry, I always get back to this because I interact with our realtors a lot. It's like, they'll think of passive income like, can I add $50 to this deal by selling a home warranty? I'm like, dude, wrong freaking target. Like $50 should not be making a difference in your life. I really hope it's not.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's great for the home warranty companies, So I don't know. I think, there's just not a lot of big thinking going on, and I want there to be.
Yeah. One of the chapters you have is on decentralized command. Can you speak a little bit to, I guess, how that worked in your organization? I'm curious to the home healthcare. Were these ones that are spread out across multiple states, and how they operate, that balances, decisions have to get made with systems and processes need to get followed, right? So what does that look like? So
before I even knew what decentralized command was, one of the first mentors that I ever had, was this older Jewish guy in Mount Airy. We actually have one of our offices like around the corner from his office now. He's been Bob Mazer. He's our money lender in Philly. He's owned thousands of units. And one of the pieces of advice he would give me, I was like, was that he always acted out of fear and he always played too small. And he was always afraid to kind of buy outside of Mount Airy because he knew Mount Airy so well. He was never going to leave Mount Airy. He knew everything about it. And so he overlooked Manayunk, and he had an opportunity to buy hundreds of properties in Manayunk from Sheriff Sale for $3,000 to $10,000. And he said, nope, I don't know the area. It's never going to go anywhere. Well, anyone who's from Philadelphia knows Manayunk did go somewhere.
Yeah.
And Bob would have been probably a billionaire, but he's not. He's worth maybe 20 million, is what he tells me. Yeah. I've far surpassed that by casting a much wider net. And so that was one of the pieces of advice I always got. And some people want to keep everything close to the vest. And I don't think you can if you want to scale quickly. You can keep some ideas to yourself, but you have to hire people and trust people. And decentralized command and hire fast, fire fast go kind of hand in hand, because you got to be able to hire someone, give them a lot of leeway. Hopefully not enough room to hang themselves, but enough room to run a division and do it well. And then be willing to let them go if they're not the right person. Some people don't expect leaders to always be right. Sometimes they're just hoping that you make a call. Just make a freaking decision. And if you're wrong, change it. It's not hard. And I think that's, kind of what holds people back. And so, one of the strategic reasons, I call him my chief of staff. Derek calls himself the chief operations officer. So I think it sounds cooler. But, I was like, I need a military guy that understands these same concepts that we learned there. Because in the military, a 25-year-old kid could be in charge of hundreds of dudes and hundreds of millions of assets. Like, that takes a significant amount of confidence. Yeah. And the people who weren't exposed to that in the military, they don't get it, right? And in colleges, we're getting safe rooms now, or whatever the hell they call that, safe spaces and stupid shit like that. And in the military, you don't have that. It's like, all right, cool. Welcome to the military. Here's 20 guys. Go take that hill. That's crazy.
Yep. That's awesome. Cool, man. Well, where can people connect and learn more about you? Where can they buy the book? Give me all the links.
Yeah. So the book is Maintain Your Gear. So that's on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or Target. There's also links to it if they go to the surefiregroup.com. But the surefiregroup.com has all our social media on there and our YouTube pages and stuff like that. But if anyone, ever wanted to reach out about, real estate, title, mortgage, healthcare, doing joint ventures, whatever, they can, just email me or text me. Email's joe@thesurefiregroup.com. And then my cell is 215-868-6379.
Awesome. Cool. We'll link all those up. And for someone who hates social media, though, I've been seeing all your Facebook reels pop up.
I meant to get to that.
Promoting your book. I'm assuming that's why you did it.
Yeah, well, I meant to get to, so after the book had kind of taken off, one of the strategies was that we hired an in-house videographer, and then we actually hired Snoop Dogg's videographer, Rizzo. So one of the things we're doing is going around to our loan officers, all of our companies, every month, building as much video content as possible so that the agents don't have to pay for it, so that they have social media content they can leverage. And in turn, my team has convinced me that I need to make videos. I still don't have LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, or anything on my phone because it drives me crazy. Yeah. Someone else monitors that all day. This is not me. I can't even watch those videos because I just they're cringeworthy to me. But I know it's good advice and people really enjoy it, but I don't like seeing myself up there.
Yeah, that's all right. That's cool. Cool, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on, sharing your story. I'm going to be sure to check out the book. Luckily, I got a copy of it already. And good luck with everything. And hopefully we'll chat and next time on the podcast and get an update of how you bought out your franchisor and sold it to private equity for hundreds of millions, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I'll be on my private island.
There you go. All right, I'll talk to you. That's all we got for this episode with the Business with Beers podcast. One thing that would really help both us and other new potential listeners is to rate the show and leave a comment in iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you listen. Also, make sure to link up with me on your preferred social media platforms, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You can find all my links at brianbeers.com. Please just share the podcast with anyone who you think might enjoy it. And until next time, remember to take the actions others won't, to live the life that others don't.